So should we go right on to the panel discussion? I guess we should. I should pay more attention to the clock.
We heard some from Pastor Spittel at First Trinity about your liturgical practice and how that informs your mission. Um, what were things like at First Trinity when you arrived there? And did you develop things in a certain way that led to your approach to outreach in the Pittsburgh area? Did you inherit an approach that you then brought to other places? How did that work?
Well, I was very fortunate with First Trinity. First Trinity was one of the sites of in 1937 of the St. James Society conference, um, and the liturgical tradition of the Lutheran hymnal, which we still use today, was maintained by Pastor Friedrich Schumann, and then Pastor Lawrence Blackenbiel, and then Joseph Brennan, and so I didn't have to fix anything. We had weekly communion when we got there. So all that was already set. And the work that I was doing, and then we added in Eric Andre, campus ministry, blind, deaf, basically anybody that was in our neighborhood that we needed to reach. But one of the unifying factors among all those groups is Sunday morning and the divine service. And one of the things you never want to do when you're dealing with changing groups of people, especially college students, because they're always coming and going, don't need consistency. So, and people ask me about the college students, especially, well, don't they want something contemporary? To which I always ask, contemporary to who? But no, because college students today, unless they're coming to us from another Lutheran church, which is the minority, they're coming to church for the very first time. They've never been in church before. And so it's all new to them anyway. I could teach them row your boat, or I can teach them the Verglauben, and they'll learn it. So we might as well teach them the chorales and the liturgy, and they just absorb it. And they say, well, this is what they do. That's normal. And they grow up in that tradition. So I've always seen the liturgy and the consistency of the offices and the praying of the daily office and the divine service and the consistency there as a help to missions, as something you can bring anybody to it, and it unifies. So there's not a children's church and a teenagers church and a college church and an old people's church and a blind people's church. No, church. It's one. And Pastor Jansen can speak to that also with Holy Cross and the people he served with.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people that come into church for the first time, they have no frame of reference or thing to really compare it to. So, and a lot of people who are of my generation are so open-minded. They're just like, well, that's kind of what you do. So those, everyone's different and unique, of course, and you have to deal with people individually. But I've found overwhelmingly that the liturgy, when it's led correctly, you're not messing up, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, and it's actually led, people follow, and they follow really well.
Pastor Mullins is serving 3 congregations.
Oh my goodness.
So call is to Fairhope, which if you enjoy driving on goat paths but seeing absolutely gorgeous scenery, that church is the one for you. But also serving at Central City, Saints Peter and Paul, a former Slovak congregation, and Holy Cross Johnstown, still in the SLC district. So Eastern District and SLC districts. So he's in a variety of urban and rural places. So maybe you could speak a little bit to does the liturgy change between those 3 churches?
No, I purposely have the same liturgy actually, because when we come together as one of the things I do, so 2 of the congregations are technically either replants or revitalization, however you want to talk about it. And so I get all 3 congregations together, Christians together, and part of this is worshiping together. So like a cappella matins or vespers, depending on the time of day. And it's wonderful because everybody knows it, right? They're at 3 different congregations, and that's an immediate stepping stone of saying, hey, we actually share this. Yeah, works pretty well. So,
Yeah, and being in the city too, where Pastor Spatel is, it's very connected. The universities are there. It's a big business district. There's a lot of employment, which also brings, different populations and groups like transient housing, homeless, etc. And we've got some people who will come in to First Trinity and then they'll move down to where we are, or vice versa. They'll come in contact with our congregation through our ministries and then go up to First Trinity. And they bounce a little bit between the two, but they're right plugged in and they know everything that's going on. They follow the liturgy well, even if they're not catechized yet, confirmed. And that's been really nice to see. There's I don't even know the right word. The transfer is very easy, and that's made pastoral care more unique in some ways, but it's also really helpful in connecting the pastors too in the city. And we're able to, like, I mean, you're a little far out from the city, but we all work together in a lot of different ways, and it's really, really nice.
What is the tradition at St. Paul's Catonsville these days? What is the tradition there? We all inherit. Every pastor inherits a particular set of circumstances.
Yeah. I mean, I think the long-term history is similar to what you guys have been describing. And I think in the last 20 or so years, there was some drift for better or worse, but, Sunday communion now, anchored not so much in TLH, frankly, but in 2 of the orders in LSB, Divine Service 1, and then the more, use the dreaded word, contemporary, I don't even know, Divine Service 4, spoken one. But, very, very much living out of those with wonderful choir and yeah, I mean that's in the short version of it.
Yeah, I mean, at our Savior, when I arrived here, they were most of the time they used Divine Service 1 as it was found in Lutheran worship, and occasionally they would use what we now have as Divine Service 3. But in the 10 years I've been here, we have increasingly used Divine Service 3, and then Divine Service 1. We still use that for what, maybe a third of the year or a little more.
Septuagint through Palm Sunday, then makes me decided to go first beginning July through third week in October. And the rest of the time, all the evening services are Divine Service 3. Yeah. That's cool.
And that seems to work here. Does seem to work.
I was wondering if you could see sort of tying together Dr. Holmes's presentation and the work in Pittsburgh, and in a sense, the work of the St. James Society. As you looked at the connection between the sacraments, invocation, and the Genesis commentary, there's a sense in which God is truly at work and present in both. But there is a way in which there is a certain clarity in the sacraments and a certitude, an unchangingness in the sacraments, and including confession and the word and that sort of larger range of sacraments. That I think maybe sort of undergirded also what we talked about in Pittsburgh and maybe what was envisioned by people into St. James Society. I know Well, Shank talks like this sometimes, that the liturgy is sort of that sacramental level, even with all the different vocations. That it's that's the common core that is unchanging and certain, whether you're dealing with the blind or this ethnic group or whatever it is. That sort of creates that. Not that God isn't at work in the different ways as you reach out in those different ways, but that everything has to come back to the liturgy, and that's where the fullness of divine grace is found, say the divine presence.
Yeah, and if experience has taught me anything in the ministry, it's that no matter what people might be posting on their social media, most people's lives are pretty much a hot mess. You know, it's that vocation of dealing with the God tempering us,
Yeah.
and people struggle greatly with that, and it is in the ministry of word and sacrament that they do find the grace and mercy of God. It's the only place that they can be assured that God does indeed care and have mercy on me and love me. And we need to not only treasure that as a great privilege, but as pastors, uh, take that very seriously and protect it for the sake of our people. The world will never give them any consolation.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, and there can be a temptation, I think, to as a parish pastor to, you're supposed to be busy doing multiplying things, and certainly there is a lot of work to do, but the center and the reason that we exist is that liturgy and sacraments, and um, it is, I think, for people whose lives, like our own, are often a hot mess in many different ways, that really becomes the center of their life, and has to be the center of congregational life, or else it's also a hot mess. I mean, everything flows out of that. If you don't have that, everything else is here. But many other things happen. I mean, we're out on the street. We're doing all sorts of. I mean, we can be doing as congregations other things, but if that center is not there, then it doesn't. It just it's it does it can be a multiplying of busyness, and it can be easily lost as to why are we out there. It has to always flow from the liturgy and flow back to the liturgy. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and your Masks of God was, I mean, obviously very helpful when you point that out with Luther, and how this is how God actually interacts with his people. He comes to them through a called and ordained servant of the word, and actually works and does his proper work. And um, then I think sometimes we are tempted, or at least maybe me, when I was tempted, you kind of take different aspects, because liturgy has the word, but it also has the habit, and it has the order, and you can make a different habit, or you can just use the word by itself, just in like a different Bible study or something, and tempted to kind of part it out. But at the divine service, it's all there, it's all together. Um, and so I've been trying my best to start everything with that. So every meal, every Bible study, every gathering of the congregation begins with matins, or another form of, but it's because I think, and the hiddenness is helpful. I actually really enjoyed that, because then when you meet people, whether they be in the building or out somewhere else, that's how God's getting in contact with them, by using you as the instrument.
And I do resonate with something the Reverend Dr. Douglas Pell just said, and that is, I think more people the more and more the people we encounter, either as visitors or people who come, often have a blank slate as far as Christianity is concerned. they haven't been raised in, you know, Dudall Lutheran Church out, you know, and here's how we did it, or, you know, I want to, you know, have a praise band like they do down they don't know praise band from Morgan. I mean, they have, and so they do much more have an openness and, you know, when they experience, um, traditional worship, for lack of a better word, the liturgy, you know, oftentimes it makes a great impression on them. And again, they just to them, for a lot of them, this is simply Christianity. I mean, this is just, you know, they don't come with they don't come churched.
Mm.
They didn't go to church when they were kids, you know, they're just coming in.
There's a scholar, I can't remember who, but we had to read it for seminary, where he explained catechesis as as uh, when you have a child, you don't give the child a fitted suit because they're going to outgrow it.
Mhm.
And so in catechesis, and I guess this would then apply to the way we worship as well with the liturgy, it's like the suit's too long on the arms and it, you know, goes past the feet because you're always growing into this. And so also not being confident that what we have is good and right and salutary, and then give it all. Don't hold back. Just be truthful and faithful with it all, and let God's work and will actually take precedence.
Is there anything else that needs to be said about the mission societies? Whether Palm or Wiccan or PLM compared to the past or you know,
Uh,
commercial time.
commercial time. Well, the Winnikin project here in Baltimore continues its work, and it's it's always a work in progress. I mean, we had been very much supporting the work at Nazareth Church, which that is now borne fruit in really a mission to Hispanic people who are largely the population of that neighborhood. And we have Pastor, his last name is pronounced Tornado. His first name is Miguel, and I know him as Pastor Miguel. And he's done a wonderful job there with making this word and sacrament ministry continue in that location when at one time it was very doubtful that it would continue. Pastor Coates, what is there anything we should say about Winnikin?
I mean, not much to add. I think, you know, at Redeemer, we're continuing, you know, outreach and always have new people talking to and hoping to start more classes yet again and lots of children. So um, I think, you know, I do know that even at Nazareth, that they are seeking help to learn how to sing the liturgy better, you know, and so forth. And that they, you know, they seem to be trying to bring that into a wholeness of Lutheran liturgical life. And that's certainly what we try to do at Redeemer as well. Where we have the common service every Sunday on changing, which we sing a cappella. They have been trained in that by some musicians that have stayed at our church. We don't have an organist, but that unchanging, you know, music becomes sort of important for them and, you know, how they, you know, worship their Lord at each and every Sunday and Wednesday and other times. So
How does Winnikin Project serve an underserved parish? Like I think of St. Thomas. What's going on over there?
Oh my
right
God.
now, the Winnikin Project is providing pastoral support. So Pastor Robertson, who is now retired, has started taking on the brunt of that, but he doesn't do that alone. I know Pastor Alms has helped out there. I have done a couple year and a half stint there every Sunday, and that got a little long. And but Pastor Robertson's there, and other local clergy are filling in there so they can have continuation of weekly Lord's Supper and, you know, weekly liturgy But beyond that, Pastor Robertson has been doing a lot of very interesting things to make use of the space there. The building that they own next to them has been refurbished, is now a community center with a local nonprofit, and he's working to get after school tutoring with a connection to the church and able to teach Bible stories in the basement. And he's going through lots of steps to get to that. But that's sort of right now, St. Thomas is our major focus since Nazareth has the funding and reading road for Saviour.
Well, I suppose it's time to pray the itinerarium.